Hello, today is my first literary review. I'm starting out small by reviewing two pamphlets called The Truth About Science and the Bible and The Truth About Dinosaurs, both by Eric Lyons. They were published by Apologetics Press, Inc., Montgomery, Alabama, in 2003. The purpose of these is to inform young Christians against outside evolutionist propaganda. As you might have guessed, it doesn't make that much sense. That's why I'm reviewing it. So let's examine each with a guided tour. Let's first start with the Bible and Science.
Here's the front cover, and now the flaps. This first asinine assumption starts the downward slope from here. And I quote, "The Bible presents amazingly correct scientific information that the writers on their own simply could not have known." Yes, like a type of bird called bat living on a flat earth which is orbited by the sun. Let's see Eric's first evidence, blood. He quotes Moses as saying the life of the flesh is in the blood, and that scientists only recently found that out.
That's a folly as well. Leviticus 17:11 does not discuss medical science. It talks about blood's importance in ritual sacrifice. People 2,500 years ago were smart enough and had enough common sense to realize that if something bled too much, it would die. Remember, Moses and the people that he said this to were former slaves who lived in very harsh times, so they must have already known the dangers of excessive bleeding. Here's a question. The first beheadings took place as far back as the 16th century BC, because they knew that things with missing heads didn't really move around that much. So did God tell the polytheistic Egyptians who practiced these executions that beheadings killed people, or did they figure that out themselves? Or what about the Aztecs, who had no contact with the Eastern world for a very, very long time? They performed ritualistic sacrifices of heart removal and beheadings. So did the Christian God tell them about blood's importance so that the polytheistic heathens could easier worship their many false idols? Besides, humans are animals too. It's just instinctual to realize that bleeding isn't good for health. That's a weak, so-called scientific argument for the Bible. Eric was incorrect for asking, in the last sentence of this first part, if Moses just made a lucky guess, because he did not.
Next, he mentions Deuteronomy 23, verses 12 through 14, which instructs the Israelites to bury their excrement. I quote him as saying, "Today we know that this is a good public health practice."
If you read Deuteronomy 23:15, the verse right after his reference, it says, "God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee, therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he sees no unseemly thing in thee, and turn away from thee." So God doesn't tell them to bathe and bury crap because of sanitation. He tells them to do it to keep the camp holy and nice for when he goes there. After all, if a guest of honor was coming to your house, wouldn't you want to clean up the feces before they arrived? Then he insultingly goes on to say that the Black Plague could have been prevented if they had only listened to God's word. Too bad very few people could read in those days, right? Get a load of what he says next.
He explained how to treat those who were sick. Numbers 5, verses 1 through 4. If you read Numbers 5, verses 1 through 4, it doesn't say how to treat illness. No, it tells you to throw out sick people so they can die. Did Eric read the Bible, or is he hoping that nobody else did?
Last, Eric mentions how the Israelites were forbidden to eat pork because it is unclean. Of course, it's not as if they noticed people getting sick from eating undercooked pork. No, no, God must have told them this. He never cites any real evidence. All Eric does is tell us that common sense existed. However, I haven't told you about my favorite part, the puzzle section in the back.
Just look at the true and false section. True or false? Instructions found in the Old Testament could have helped stop the Black Plague. Or true or false? All scientific statements in the Bible are accurate.
This pamphlet is insulting to intelligence. He just Bible quotes and calls it scientific information and evidence. He really doesn't understand the difference between common sense and science. So you must be dying to see part 2, to see what he says about dinosaurs, right? Oh, it's going to be great. I'm Dustin. The bibliography is in the description, and this is the last bit of common sense.